Hello everyone, welcome to Sleep Space. Tonight we will talk about if dreams are the closest thing we have to time travel. I'm glad you're here with me, as this is a fascinating subject that connects science, psychology, and imagination all in one. When most people think about time travel, they imagine stepping into a machine and suddenly being transported to another era, whether in the past or far into the future. But what if I told you that your brain may already be giving you a version of this extraordinary experience every single night? Dreams, in their mysterious and unpredictable ways, allow us to step outside of linear time, revisiting past memories, leaping into imagined futures, or blending the two into surreal experiences that feel strangely real. Tonight, we're going to explore the possibility that dreams are our most natural form of time travel, hidden in plain sight. To begin, let's consider what time travel even means. In the physical sciences, time travel often refers to moving forward or backward along the timeline outside of the usual second-by-second progression that we all experience. The laws of physics suggest that moving forward in time is possible, at least theoretically, through concepts like time dilation, described by Einstein's theory of relativity. Travelling backward in time, however, is far more complicated and controversial. In everyday life, though, time travel is not only about physics, it's also about the mind. When you recall a vivid memory, your brain can transport you to that moment as if it were happening again. You hear the voices, see the setting, and feel the emotions as though no time has passed. Similarly, when you imagine the future, you are projecting yourself into a time that doesn't exist yet. Dreams are where these abilities collide in the most profound and unfiltered way. Think about the last dream you had that felt unusually vivid. Maybe you were suddenly back in your childhood home, sitting at a table you hadn't seen in years, hearing the voices of family members who might no longer even be alive. Or maybe you dreamed of yourself in a future version of your life, older, with circumstances that don't exist in your present. In both cases, your brain was pulling you outside of the current moment, bending time in ways that feel incredibly real. This is why some philosophers and scientists propose that dreams may not just be random images or nonsense, but rather simulations that allow us to experience different points on our personal timeline. One of the most compelling aspects of dreams is their connection to memory. Neuroscientists have found that during sleep, particularly in stages known as rapid eye movement or REM sleep, the brain is highly active in processing and consolidating memories. This is when the hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, replays experiences, sometimes weaving them into dreams. But the fascinating part is that dreams don't simply replay memories like a film. Instead, they remix them, blending moments from the distant past with fragments of the present, and sometimes even with imagined possibilities. It's as if your mind has its own non-linear editing system, splicing together pieces of your life into a new storyline that feels immersive. In this way, dreams can pull you backward to relive a long-forgotten event or project you forward into scenarios you've never lived before. Consider how powerful this is. A dream can take you to a memory of being 6 years old, running in a schoolyard, and in the next moment shift you into an entirely different environment where you're older, wiser, and facing events that may or may not ever happen. This kind of time bending is something we rarely experience in waking life. When you're awake, you're tied to the present moment, bound by the flow of seconds on the clock. In dreams, however, those rules are suspended. Minutes can feel like hours, or hours can pass in what feels like an instant. You may wake up from a dream that seemed to last an entire day, only to realize you were asleep for 20 minutes. This distortion of time perception is one of the strongest reasons some thinkers see dreaming as a form of mental time travel. It's not only about reliving the past or imagining the future, though. Dreams also allow us to step into alternate versions of time. For example, you might dream of a conversation with someone you never actually spoke with in real life, or an event that didn't happen but feels like it could have. These imagined scenarios could be considered branches of time, possibilities that your brain constructs as though they were real. This is particularly intriguing when you think about how scientists have speculated about the existence of parallel universes or branching timelines. While those remain theoretical in physics, the human mind seems to create its own versions every night. In this way, dreams could be offering us glimpses into what-if timelines, letting us explore them without ever leaving our beds. Another fascinating aspect to consider is how emotions in dreams tie us to different points in time. Memories are not stored in the brain as simple facts. They're deeply intertwined with emotions. When a powerful emotion is triggered in a dream, whether it's joy, fear, grief, or excitement, it can transport you instantly to a time when you felt that same emotion in your waking life. You may not consciously realize it, but your brain is pulling together emotional threads that connect different moments in your personal history. This emotional time travel can be even more powerful than visual or auditory elements because it makes you feel as though you are truly there again, reliving that moment through the rawness of emotion. Let's also think about the role of imagination in this process. Unlike memories, imagination projects us into futures that haven't happened yet. When you dream, your imagination is unleashed without the limits imposed by waking logic. You might see yourself decades older, or in a career you don't yet have, or even in situations that defy the laws of physics. These imagined futures may not come true, but they serve an important function. They allow your brain to practice possibilities. Psychologists call this prospection, the ability to mentally simulate the future. It's one of the key traits that separates humans from many other animals, and dreams seem to be one of the richest forms of this future simulation. In a very real sense, you are traveling forward in time within the theatre of your own mind. There's also the matter of how dreams handle the concept of identity. In waking life, your identity is tied to the present. Your current age, your circumstances, your role in society. In dreams, however, your sense of self is malleable. You might experience yourself as younger or older, or even as someone else entirely. There are reports of people dreaming from the perspective of another person, or even as an observer watching themselves from outside their body. These shifts in identity add another layer of time travel to the dream experience. They allow you to not only move across different points in time, but to do so through different versions of yourself. This suggests that dreams are not limited by the usual boundaries of identity or time, but instead offer a fluid and dynamic way of experiencing existence. When you step back and think about all of this together, dreams begin to look less like random noise and more like a sophisticated simulation. They combine memory, imagination, emotion, and identity into scenarios that feel as though they transcend time. In this sense, your dreaming brain becomes like a time machine, one that doesn't require advanced physics or impossible technology, but instead is built into the very fabric of human consciousness. While scientists continue to study the mechanics of how dreams work, the subjective experience of dreaming has always had this uncanny quality of moving through time in ways that defy waking reality. And perhaps this is one of the greatest gifts of dreams. They remind us that time itself may not be as rigid as we think. In waking life, we often treat time as a straight line: past, present, future. But in dreams, that line becomes a web, with countless pathways that intersect, loop back, or branch into possibilities. Dreams invite us to experience time as something alive, flexible, and deeply personal. Whether you're revisiting a childhood memory, envisioning your future, or wandering through an entirely new reality, your dreams give you access to something extraordinary. The chance to step outside of the ordinary march of time and experience it in a way that feels limitless. To dive deeper into this idea, we need to look at what science has uncovered about how the brain perceives time. Our sense of time when we are awake is surprisingly fragile. It depends on networks in the brain that regulate attention, memory, and the perception of change. For example, when you are deeply engaged in an activity you love, time seems to fly. Hours may pass in what feels like minutes. On the other hand, when you are bored or waiting for something, time drags unbearably slow. This alone shows that time, at least as we experience it, is not fixed, but instead shaped by our perception. Dreams take this flexibility and amplify it to extraordinary levels. In neuroscience, the striatum and the prefrontal cortex are thought to be especially important for time perception. They act like an internal clock, integrating information and regulating our sense of passing moments. But in dreams, the normal functioning of this system seems to loosen. Without the usual input from the outside world, no clocks, no sun rising and setting, no pressing responsibilities, your brain is free to stretch or compress time. This explains why you might dream of an epic adventure spanning years, only to wake up and find you were asleep for less than an hour. This disconnection from external markers of time allows dreams to become a playground for the mind, where the usual rules no longer apply. Let's also look at how memory interacts with time. When you're awake, recalling a memory feels different from living in the present. You know you're thinking of something from the past, but in dreams, the boundary between past and present blurs. Memories can reappear in such vivid detail that you feel like you are actually there again. The people, the places, the emotions, everything can be so convincing that the dream essentially pulls you back into a previous moment in time. From a scientific perspective, this is because dreams often reactivate the same neural pathways that were active when the memory was first created. So in a very real sense, you are re-experiencing that moment, not just remembering it. That's why a dream can feel like time travel to the past. Now, what about the future? Neuroscientists have a term for the brain's ability to simulate future scenarios: episodic future thinking. This ability relies on many of the same brain structures as memory, especially the hippocampus. In fact, the hippocampus doesn't just store memories, it helps us imagine. When you think about what you'll be doing next week or next year, your brain is constructing a simulation, pulling pieces of past experiences and reorganizing them into something new. In dreams, this process is turbocharged. Freed from the constraints of waking logic, your brain can leap far into the future, creating vivid scenarios of what might come to pass. You may not recognize it consciously, but this is your brain rehearsing possibilities, exploring different timelines. There's something very human about this. Unlike many animals, humans can plan, imagine, and prepare for futures that haven't happened yet. Dreams, then, might be one of the earliest forms of this ability, giving us a safe space to test out what could happen. Imagine an ancient hunter dreaming of chasing prey or escaping danger. Those dreams could have helped prepare the brain for real-life survival. In this sense, dreams as time travel are not just a poetic metaphor. They may be an evolutionary tool that gave our ancestors an edge. The ability to mentally move backward and forward in time could have been critical for survival, and it still shapes how we live today. This brings us to an important question: what is time itself? Physics tells us that time is a dimension, much like space. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not separate from space, but interwoven with it, forming what is called space-time. This means that the flow of time is not absolute, but relative, depending on factors like speed and gravity. For instance, an astronaut traveling at near the speed of light would experience time more slowly than someone on Earth. This concept is called time dilation, and it has been proven with precise atomic clocks on fast-moving jets and satellites. But while physics can explain time in mathematical terms, our lived experience of time is something else entirely. The seconds ticking on a clock are not the same as the seconds you feel inside your mind. Dreams reveal this difference in the most striking way. In dreams, time is subjective, elastic, and deeply personal. Your dream might stretch a single moment into an eternity, or compress a lifetime into minutes. If physics shows us the objective structure of time, dreams show us the subjective experience of it. Both are real, but they are not the same. Another angle worth exploring is the connection between dreams and déjà vu. That eerie feeling that you've already experienced something before may be linked to the brain's memory systems misfiring, but some researchers suggest that déjà vu may also reflect the brain's ability to simulate future scenarios. In other words, it's possible that the feeling of déjà vu occurs when a situation in real life resembles something your brain already simulated in a dream. If this is true, then dreams could serve as rehearsals for moments in your future, and déjà vu is the brain's way of saying, "I've been here before." Whether or not this is scientifically proven, it captures the essence of dreams as a form of time travel. They allow us to experience fragments of the future before they arrive. We should also think about the role of narrative in all of this. Humans are natural storytellers. We understand our lives not just as a sequence of moments, but as stories, with beginnings, middles, and imagined endings. Dreams tap directly into this storytelling ability. They construct narratives that may not always make logical sense, but that feel emotionally real. In these dream narratives, you can skip across decades, revisit your childhood, or jump into a possible future in seconds. Stories themselves are a kind of time travel. They allow us to move through time in the space of imagination. Dreams, then, may be the most intimate stories we tell ourselves, written and experienced by our own minds. Let's pause for a moment and consider an example. Imagine someone who dreams about walking into their old high school. They see the hallways, the lockers, the classrooms exactly as they were years ago. They even recognize the smell of the place, something they haven't thought about in decades. In waking life, they could recall the memory of school, but it wouldn't be as immersive. In the dream, though, it feels real, like they've traveled back in time. Now imagine that in the same dream, this person suddenly finds themselves in a completely different scenario, standing on a stage in the future, giving a speech to a large audience. They've never done this before, but the dream makes it feel real, almost like a rehearsal. In one single dream, the person has traveled both backward and forward in time, all while their body rests quietly. This blending of past and future is one of the most remarkable aspects of dreaming. It mirrors the way our brains naturally handle time in waking life. We are constantly moving between memory and imagination, between reflecting on what has been and planning what might be. Dreams magnify this process, giving us a vivid, immersive experience that feels like genuine travel through time. In this sense, dreaming is not separate from waking thought, but an extension of it, one that allows us to experience time in ways that waking consciousness cannot. And what about the strange, surreal elements of dreams? Flying, meeting impossible creatures, bending the laws of physics. These don't seem like time travel at first glance. But consider this. If time travel were possible in waking life, wouldn't it feel strange? Wouldn't it involve realities that defy what we consider normal? In some ways, the bizarre elements of dreams may reflect the difficulty of representing multiple timelines or alternate realities. Your brain is trying to construct experiences that don't exist in waking life, and the result is often surreal. But even in their strangeness, these dreams carry echoes of time travel. They suggest alternate paths, alternate identities, alternate outcomes, just as theories of multiverses or branching timelines suggest in physics. All of this raises an even deeper question. Are dreams simply a trick of the brain, or do they reveal something fundamental about the nature of time itself? Some philosophers argue that consciousness might not be entirely bound to linear time. Instead, they suggest that consciousness could touch moments across the timeline in ways we don't fully understand. Dreams could be a hint of this larger reality, showing us that the strict linear flow of time may be more of an illusion than we realize. Dreams have always been seen as gateways to something beyond the ordinary. Ancient civilizations often believed that dreams were messages from gods, glimpses of the future, or visitations from spirits. In ancient Egypt, dream interpreters held respected positions, and people believed dreams could predict the course of their lives. The Greeks, too, thought dreams could serve as prophecies. Temples were even built where people would go to sleep in hopes of receiving a dream that offered healing or guidance. For these cultures, dreams were not random at all. They were a way to step outside of ordinary time and access knowledge that came from beyond. Even in more recent history, dreams have been tied to time in striking ways. Think about prophetic dreams, those rare but memorable dreams where people report seeing something that later comes true. While skeptics argue that these can be explained by coincidence or selective memory, they nevertheless suggest that humans have long felt that dreams connect us to the future. Entire books have been written about individuals who dreamed of disasters, inventions, or events before they occurred. Whether these are true glimpses of the future or simply the brain's ability to simulate possibilities with eerie accuracy, they remind us of the dream's unique power to stretch across time. Another fascinating perspective comes from psychology. Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, believed dreams were primarily about the past. He saw them as expressions of repressed desires, unresolved conflicts, and hidden memories. According to Freud, dreams allowed people to revisit and process parts of their past that the conscious mind avoided. Carl Jung, on the other hand, had a broader view. He believed dreams not only dealt with personal history, but also tapped into a collective unconscious, containing symbols and archetypes shared across humanity. To Jung, dreams were not just about past experiences, but also about guiding the dreamer toward future growth and self-discovery. Both perspectives, Freud's focus on the past and Jung's inclusion of the future, support the idea of dreams as journeys through time. Now let's bring this into the present with what modern neuroscience tells us. Researchers have found that when people dream, certain brain regions associated with memory and imagination are especially active. The hippocampus, which helps us store and recall episodic memories, is busy replaying fragments of experience. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and imagination, contributes to building scenarios. Together, these systems create the raw material of dreams, pieces of the past woven into potential futures. In a sense, the brain is doing something very practical. It's taking data from yesterday and simulating what might happen tomorrow. The dream feels surreal and non-linear, but beneath the surface, there's a logic. your brain is rehearsing time. Think about the survival value of this. If you dream of being chased, your brain is rehearsing the experience of fear, sharpening your response for real-life danger. If you dream of social interactions, you're practicing future conversations and refining your ability to navigate relationships. Even dreams that seem nonsensical might have hidden value, letting your mind test out combinations of past experiences to prepare for unexpected futures. In this way, dreams become more than entertainment. They are training grounds for future survival, mental simulations that give you a form of time travel for preparation. But dreams are not only about practice, they also allow us to revisit what has already passed. One of the most powerful aspects of dreaming is how it reconnects us with people and the places we've lost. Many people have dreamed of loved ones who are no longer alive. In those dreams, the person feels present again, alive in a way that transcends the limits of time. This can be deeply emotional, sometimes comforting, sometimes painful, but always powerful. It is as though dreams allow us to bend time and restore connections that waking life has taken away. Philosophically, this suggests that the boundaries between past and present are not as rigid as we think. In dreams, the past can return to life in the present moment. Let's reflect on how strange this really is. When you dream of someone who has passed away, your brain is reconstructing not just their appearance, but their voice, their personality, their way of moving, perhaps even the feeling of their presence. Where does this come from? Stored memories, of course, but memories are usually fragmentary. In dreams, though, those fragments come together seamlessly, producing a full experience of the person. It feels like time travel, because it places you back into moments you thought were gone forever. For many, these dreams are among the most vivid and unforgettable, precisely because they blur the boundaries of time and loss. There's also an interesting connection here to grief. Psychologists studying grief have found that dreams of loved ones can play an important role in healing. By allowing the dreamer to see, speak to, or even embrace the person once more, dreams give a sense of closure or continued bond. Some even describe it as visiting the loved one in another dimension. Whether or not that's true, the effect is real. Dreams extend our experience of time with those who are gone. They make the past feel present again, and in doing so, they help us process the reality of loss. This is another way dreams function as a form of time travel. Not to the future, but to what we thought was irretrievably lost. Now let's flip perspectives. If dreams can take us to the past, what about their ability to project us forward into futures we might never live? We've already mentioned episodic future thinking, but there's more to explore. Studies have shown that dreams often include problem solving. People have reported finding solutions to challenges in their dreams, from scientific insights to creative breakthroughs. The chemist Auguste Kekulé famously dreamed of a snake biting its own tail, which inspired him to understand the ring structure of the benzene molecule. Paul McCartney once dreamed the melody for Yesterday before writing it down. These examples highlight how dreams can leap ahead, offering insights the waking mind hasn't yet reached. In this sense, dreams don't just revisit the past, they create stepping stones into the future. Consider how powerful this is when it comes to creativity. The creative process often relies on making connections between ideas that don't normally go together. Dreams excel at this, blending fragments from different times and contexts into something new. When you wake up with a new idea that seems to have appeared out of nowhere, it may have been shaped by your dreaming brain, pulling elements from past experience and reassembling them into a vision of the future. Here again, dreams act as a form of time travel. not by taking you physically forward, but by mentally leaping into possibilities that have not yet occurred. There's also evidence that dreams may influence the way we think about our future selves. Psychologists sometimes ask people to imagine themselves 5, 10, or 20 years from now. This exercise can make the future feel more tangible and motivate people to make decisions that benefit their long-term well-being. Dreams can serve a similar function. When you dream of yourself in the future, even in a strange or exaggerated form, it strengthens your connection to that version of you. The future feels less like a distant abstraction and more like a lived possibility. This can influence the choices you make in the present, nudging your life in new directions. But there's a paradox here worth considering. If dreams are constantly mixing past, present, and future, then they're also reminding us that these distinctions may not be as firm as we assume. Physics has already shown us that time is not absolute. In relativity, past, present, and future are all part of the same space-time fabric. Our minds, too, seem to resist strict boundaries. In dreams, time loops back, leaps forward, or collapses into a single moment. Perhaps this means that our consciousness is not strictly bound by linear time, but instead moves more freely within it than we realize. Some thinkers have even suggested that dreams give us a glimpse of timelessness. In certain dreams, you may feel that the experience is infinite, that it exists outside of ordinary time altogether. These are often described as mystical dreams, where the sense of self dissolves and time loses all meaning. People report feeling as though they are in eternity, even if the dream only lasts a few seconds in physical time. Such experiences raise profound questions about the nature of time and consciousness. Are we in some sense touching eternity in these moments? Or is the brain simply tricking us with altered states of perception? Either way, the effect is undeniable. Dreams stretch and reshape our experience of time in ways that ordinary waking life cannot. To pull this together, it seems that dreams serve multiple roles in our relationship with time. They allow us to relive the past with vivid immediacy. They project us into imagined futures that prepare us for what may come. They blur the boundaries between memory and imagination, between what has been and what could be, and at their most mysterious, they dissolve time altogether, giving us glimpses of experiences that feel eternal. Whether we see this as a trick of the brain or as a window into deeper truths, the fact remains. In dreams, time does not behave as it does in waking life. It bends, stretches, loops, and disappears, leaving us with experiences that feel like nothing short of time travel. When you experience something during the day, your brain doesn't simply record it like a camera. Instead, it breaks the experience into fragments, visual images, sounds, emotions, and meanings, and stores them in different parts of the brain. Later, when you recall the memory, your brain reconstructs those fragments into a coherent story. In dreams, this reconstruction process takes on a new dimension. The brain is free to assemble fragments from different periods of your life, creating hybrid experiences where childhood, adulthood, and imagined futures coexist side by side. This fragmented but fluid nature of memory explains why dreams can seem so disjointed yet emotionally powerful. One moment you may find yourself in a familiar setting from years ago, but with people from your present life suddenly appearing there. The next moment, the scene shifts entirely, blending elements that logically should not coexist but nevertheless feel real in the dream. What's happening here is a kind of mental montage, where the timeline of your life is sliced apart and edited back together in new forms. It's as though your mind becomes both director and editor, creating a non-linear film out of the reel of your memories. This editing process also shows why dreams often defy chronological order. In waking life, you experience time as a sequence. One moment follows another. But in dreams, the brain is not bound by that sequence. It can place moments side by side that are separated by decades. You might walk into a childhood home only to find yourself speaking with an older version of yourself. The dream doesn't see a contradiction, it simply blends the two. In this sense, dreams resemble how movies sometimes use flashbacks, flash forwards, and dreamlike montages to convey a story. Except in this case, the film is being written by your subconscious mind, and you are both actor and audience. But there's more to it than just rearranging memory. Dreams also seem to engage deeply with imagination. Neuroscientists believe that when we imagine the future, we use many of the same neural systems that handle memory. Essentially, imagination is memory's twin. Both involve simulating events that aren't happening in the present moment. The difference is that memory simulates what has already happened, while imagination simulates what might happen. In dreams, the two merge seamlessly. You may encounter scenes that are drawn from your past, but altered by your imagination, making them something new. You may dream of a future scenario that blends real hopes and fears with fantastical elements. In this way, dreams operate at the intersection of memory and imagination, allowing you to travel both backward and forward in time. This ability of dreams to combine past and future also helps explain their emotional intensity. Emotions are not bound by time in the same way events are. A strong emotional memory from childhood can resurface decades later with the same intensity. In dreams, those emotional threads weave through your experiences, linking moments that are far apart in chronological time, but close in emotional tone. A dream about a childhood friend may suddenly shift into a dream about a current relationship, not because the two are logically connected, but because they share a similar emotional resonance. This emotional time travel can make dreams feel deeply meaningful, even if their narrative seems bizarre. Now let's consider the scientific studies on how the brain processes time during dreams. Experiments with lucid dreaming, where people become aware they are dreaming and can sometimes control the dream, have provided valuable insights. In some studies, lucid dreamers were asked to perform tasks within the dream, like counting seconds or performing eye movements at specific intervals. Researchers compared the timing of these tasks in dreams to the same tasks performed while awake. Surprisingly, the results showed that time in dreams is not wildly distorted. It flows at roughly the same rate as waking time. However, the subjective experience of time is dramatically different. This means that while the brain is still keeping track of time at a basic level, the dreamer feels as though time is expanding, compressing, or shifting altogether. This discrepancy highlights the strange duality of dreams. They are grounded in the brain's physiology, but experienced as something far beyond it. One of the most mysterious aspects of dreaming is how quickly and seamlessly the brain can shift between time frames. In waking life, if you want to think about the past, you consciously direct your attention there. If you want to imagine the future, you switch gears again. But in dreams, these transitions happen without effort or awareness. You may step from one era of your life into another without even noticing the shift. The boundaries dissolve and time becomes fluid. This suggests that our brain, at its core, does not treat time as rigidly as we think. Instead, it organizes experiences in ways that prioritize meaning and emotion over strict chronology. Dreams may simply be revealing this deeper truth. Philosophers have long debated whether time is something that exists independently of us, or whether it is a construct of the human mind. If time exists independently, then it flows whether or not we are here to experience it. If it is a construct, then our minds play a central role in shaping what time feels like. Dreams seem to support the latter view, showing that our sense of time can shift dramatically depending on how the brain is processing information. In dreams, the past can be present, the future can feel real, and moments can stretch or shrink without regard to physics. This suggests that at least part of time, what we feel and experience, comes from within us, not outside. Another intriguing phenomenon related to dreaming and time is the experience of recurring dreams. Many people report dreaming the same scenario or setting repeatedly over months or years. These recurring dreams may involve themes of being chased, flying, or returning to a familiar place. What's fascinating is that recurring dreams create their own sense of time within the dream world. Even though they are separated by months or years in waking life, they feel connected, as if the dream itself has its own continuity. This continuity blurs the line between separate nights of dreaming and creates a kind of dream timeline, parallel to your waking one. Here again, dreams reveal that time can be layered and multidimensional. It's also worth noting how quickly time can change when you wake up. Often, a dream that felt endless evaporates instantly upon waking. Details slip away as though the dream was never real. This fragile nature of dream memory contrasts sharply with the intensity of the experience while it was happening. It raises the question, if time in dreams can feel so real but vanish so quickly, what does that say about the reality of time in general? Could it be that waking time is also more fragile and constructed than we realize, only held together by our continuous awareness? Dreams hint at this possibility by showing us how easily time can collapse when consciousness shifts. Another striking connection between dreams and time comes from how they can sometimes inspire action in waking life. When a dream projects you into a possible future, whether positive or negative, it can influence your decisions. For example, someone who dreams of failing at an important task may feel motivated to prepare better in real life. Someone who dreams of achieving a goal may feel more confident about pursuing it. In this way, dreams extend their reach beyond the night, shaping the trajectory of your waking life. They may not predict the future in a literal sense, but they can help create it by influencing your choices in the present. That's a subtle but powerful form of time travel, using imagined futures to shape the real one. And then there's the curious case of dreams that seem to predict real events. While many of these can be explained by coincidence or the brain's ability to piece together hints unnoticed during waking life, they remain fascinating. If you dream of meeting someone and then encounter them the next day, it feels uncanny, as though the dream gave you a glimpse of the future. Even if science explains it in terms of probability and pattern recognition, the subjective feeling is powerful. These experiences remind us that dreams have always been tied to mystery and the possibility of time slipping beyond our control. To sum up, what we see in dreams is not just the rearranging of memories or the projection of possibilities. It is the creation of an entirely different experience of time, one that runs parallel to but distinct from waking time. In dreams, time is flexible, non-linear, and deeply personal. It connects past, present, and future into a single fabric of experience, revealing that time may be less about clocks and calendars and more about how our consciousness moves through it. By studying dreams, we gain not only insight into the brain, but also into the profound mystery of time itself. When thinking about dreams as journeys through time, we must also recognize how they affect our sense of identity across different points in life. Identity itself is bound to time. You are not the same person you were at 5 years old, nor are you the same as you will be in 30 years. In waking life, this change is gradual. unfolding day by day, so slowly that you rarely notice the transformation until you look back. But in dreams, the shifts can be instantaneous. One night, you might dream from the perspective of your younger self, the next from a future version of you, and sometimes from a version of you that has never existed in waking life. Dreams are not just time machines for events, they are time machines for identity. Consider how common it is to dream of being back in school, even decades after graduating. In those dreams, you are suddenly a student again, surrounded by classmates, with all the old anxieties of tests and assignments returning as if no time had passed. This isn't just a memory replay, it's a full identity shift. You are inhabiting your younger self in the present moment of the dream. The brain doesn't announce, "This is a memory." Instead, it immerses you fully, letting you feel that you are there again. This collapse of time between past identity and present awareness is part of what makes such dreams so compelling. At other times, you may dream of yourself as older, living in circumstances that don't exist yet. Perhaps you see yourself with grey hair, or in a career you haven't achieved, or with children you don't yet have. These dreams may or may not be accurate reflections of your future, but they serve as rehearsals for potential identities. They allow you to experience in advance what it might feel like to become someone you have not yet been. This can influence your waking life by making certain futures feel more real and attainable. In this way, dreams don't just travel through time, they help sculpt who you may become within it. Dreams can also create entirely alternate identities, versions of you that don't exist in your waking timeline. You may dream of being a different person entirely, living in another place, working a different job, even having a different name. These experiences are puzzling, but they reflect the brain's ability to construct alternate selves. Psychologists sometimes call these possible selves, the versions of us that we could have become under different circumstances. Dreams give us a chance to inhabit those possible selves, exploring lives that diverge from the path we actually took. This can feel like traveling to alternate timelines, not of events, but of identity. Identity in dreams is also strangely flexible. You may shift between being yourself, an observer, or even another person entirely. In some dreams, you might watch yourself as though from outside your body, as though you are both actor and spectator in your own life story. In others, you may inhabit someone else altogether, seeing the world through their eyes. This fluidity of identity suggests that the brain is not fixed on one perspective of time, but can move freely among many. It is not just your life timeline you are traveling, it is the perspective from which you view time itself. This idea of identity as fluid in dreams raises profound questions. If you can be your past self, your future self, or someone entirely different in a dream, what does that say about the nature of identity? Perhaps identity is not as fixed as we think. Perhaps, like time, it is something we construct moment by moment, shifting depending on context. Dreams may be revealing this hidden flexibility, showing us that who we are is not bound to one point in time, but spread across many possibilities. Interestingly, this flexibility of identity in dreams aligns with certain theories in psychology and philosophy. The philosopher Derek Parfit, for instance, argued that identity is not a single unbroken thread, but a collection of connected moments. According to Parfit, what matters is not being exactly the same person over time, but maintaining psychological continuity, memories, intentions, and experiences linking one moment to another. Dreams seem to illustrate this vividly. In a dream, you may not be the exact same person you are while awake, but the continuity of memory and emotion, allows you to feel connected to that version of yourself. Dreams, then, can be seen as experiments in identity across time. Another fascinating aspect of identity and time in dreams is how they allow us to reconcile different versions of ourselves. Many people report dreaming of conversations with their younger or older selves. Sometimes these are comforting, as though offering wisdom to oneself across time. Sometimes they are unsettling, revealing conflicts between who you were, who you are, and who you might become. These dreams can feel like dialogues across decades, collapsing the distance between past, present, and future versions of the self. While such conversations may not be literally real, they feel deeply meaningful because they capture the truth that our sense of self is always evolving in relation to time. There are also dreams that allow us to revisit pivotal life choices. Imagine dreaming of the moment you decided on a career, moved to a new city, or ended a relationship. In waking life, those choices are set in stone. In dreams, however, you can return to them, sometimes imagining what might have happened if you chose differently. This is another way dreams let us travel through time, not just to the events themselves, but to alternate paths of identity. It mirrors the philosophical question of free will versus determinism. Are we bound to the choices we've made, or do we live in a universe of branching possibilities? Dreams allow us to explore the latter, experiencing lives that might have been, even if only for a fleeting moment. Identity in dreams is not only personal, but also collective. Carl Jung proposed that dreams sometimes tap into a collective unconscious, a reservoir of symbols and archetypes shared across humanity. In this view, when you dream of being someone else, or of archetypal figures like the hero, the shadow, or the wise elder, you are connecting to identities that transcend your individual life. These identities are timeless, appearing in myths and stories across cultures and generations. If Jung was right, then dreams are not only about traveling through your own timeline, but about stepping into timeless patterns of human experience. They are journeys not just through personal time, but through the collective time of humanity. We might also consider how dreams shape our identity when we wake. After a particularly vivid dream, you may feel changed in some way, as though you've lived an experience that leaves a mark on you. Even if the dream wasn't real in the physical sense, it becomes part of your personal history. You remember it, reflect on it, and perhaps even use it to guide your decisions. In this way, dreams extend the timeline of your life, not by adding actual events, but by adding imagined ones that nevertheless become part of your lived experience. This makes dreams a kind of parallel life, one that influences your waking identity as much as real events do. Another way to look at this is through the concept of narrative identity, the idea that we make sense of our lives by telling ourselves stories about who we are and how we got here. Dreams feed into this narrative. They provide raw material for the stories we tell ourselves, offering glimpses of past selves, future selves, and alternate selves. Even if the dreams don't make logical sense, they contribute to the larger story of who we believe we are. When you recall a dream, it becomes woven into your life story, further blurring the line between real experiences and imagined ones. This brings us to a curious possibility. What if dreams aren't just stories we tell ourselves, but actual experiences of time in some form? Some theories of consciousness suggest that time is not linear, and that all moments, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously. If this is true, then perhaps dreams are not simply memories or imaginations, but genuine glimpses into other points on the timeline. This is, of course, speculative, but it raises a fascinating question. Are we, in dreams, actually experiencing time differently, or are we merely simulating it? Science leans towards simulation, but the subjective experience often feels like something more. Even if dreams are only simulations, they remain profound. They show us that identity is not bound to a single moment but can move freely through time. They allow us to rehearse possible futures, revisit lost pasts, and experiment with alternate selves. They remind us that who we are is not fixed, but evolving, shaped not just by what we have lived, but by what we have imagined. And in doing so, they give us a unique form of time travel, one that takes place not in machines or physics labs, but in the theatre of the mind. One of the most fascinating aspects of dreams is how they seem to collapse the ordinary rules of time altogether. In waking life, time feels linear. Seconds become minutes, minutes become hours, and events unfold in a fixed order. But in dreams, those rules no longer apply. Time can stretch, shrink, reverse, or fragment in ways that defy the ordinary logic of clocks and calendars. This strange manipulation of time within dreams is one of the strongest reasons people compare them to journeys beyond our normal temporal limits. Think about how quickly a dream can unfold. You might fall asleep for only a few minutes, yet experience what feels like hours or even days in a dream. Entire storylines can play out, with characters, events, and emotional arcs that seem impossibly detailed given the brief time you've actually been asleep. Researchers have studied this phenomenon, and while dreams often occur in rapid bursts of brain activity called REM cycles, the subjective experience of time within those dreams doesn't always match the clock outside. This discrepancy creates the sense that dreams expand time, letting us live longer stories in shorter spans. At the same time, dreams can also compress time. You might dream of traveling across vast distances, moving through years of imagined life, yet the entire sequence can feel condensed into moments. Unlike waking life, where experiences unfold at a steady pace, dreams allow events to be fast-forwarded or summarized. It's similar to how a film can show a character's entire childhood in a quick montage. Dreams operate with this cinematic quality, bending time to fit the story they're telling. Even more curious is how dreams can fragment time. You might jump from one scene to another without transition, skipping entire sequences as though flipping pages in a book. In one moment, you're a child in your childhood home. In the next, you're an adult in an unfamiliar city. These abrupt jumps aren't treated as strange within the dream. They feel natural while you're experiencing them. Only upon waking do you realize how disjointed they were. This shows that in dreams, the brain isn't bound by the same narrative constraints as waking life. It can stitch together fragments from different times and places into a seamless, if surreal, whole. Another peculiar aspect of dream time is reversibility. While in waking life, events only move forward, dreams sometimes play with sequences that move backward. You may dream of seeing an event unfold in reverse, as if time is rewinding. Or you might dream of a future event, then suddenly find yourself back in the past, as though retracing your steps. This fluidity highlights how dreams allow the mind to break free from linear progression, exploring time as though it were a flexible medium, rather than a rigid structure. Lucid dreaming, the state in which you become aware that you're dreaming, offers especially vivid examples of time manipulation. In lucid dreams, some people report intentionally slowing down or speeding up time, choosing to linger in a moment or fast forward to a different one. Others describe the sensation of existing outside of time altogether, as though watching events unfold without being tied to their rhythm. While these experiences are subjective, they reveal how elastic our perception of time can be when freed from the constraints of waking reality. What might be happening in the brain to create these distortions? Neuroscientists suggest that time perception in dreams is less about measuring external durations and more about the brain's processing of events. In waking life, our sense of time depends on how the brain tracks changes in the environment. But in dreams, where the environment is internally generated, time may be measured differently, by the density of events, emotions, and transitions, rather than by the steady ticking of seconds. A dream packed with vivid imagery and strong emotions may feel longer, while one with sparse content may feel shorter, regardless of the actual clock time. This leads to a deeper question. Is our perception of time always this malleable, even when awake, and do dreams simply reveal it more clearly? After all, we know that time can feel different depending on our circumstances. An hour can crawl when you're bored, but vanish when you're engaged. A moment of danger can feel elongated, with every detail burned into memory, while a joyful day can pass in a blur. If our sense of time is already subjective while awake, perhaps dreams simply push this subjectivity to its extreme, untethering us completely from external markers. Beyond the mechanics of perception, dream time also invites us to reflect on philosophical ideas about the nature of time itself. Some physicists and philosophers argue that time, as we experience it, is not a fundamental feature of reality, but a construct of human consciousness. According to certain interpretations of physics, all moments, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously in a kind of block universe. In such a framework, our experience of time as flowing from past to future may be an illusion, a way the mind organizes events for coherence. Dreams, with their ability to jump between moments and rearrange sequences, could be glimpses into this deeper truth, that time is not a river flowing forward, but a landscape we can move through in different ways. Another intriguing angle is how dreams sometimes seem to anticipate the future. Many people report experiencing déjà vu, the eerie feeling of having already lived through a moment, and they often connect it to a dream they had earlier. While science typically explains déjà vu as a glitch in memory processing, it's striking how often people feel their dreams have foreshadowed real events. Even if this isn't literal time travel, it suggests that dreams can create the sensation of future time bleeding into the present. Whether this is coincidence, pattern recognition, or something more mysterious, it adds to the sense that dreams operate outside our normal temporal boundaries. The manipulation of time in dreams also connects to creativity and problem solving. When you dream, your mind can compress years of imagined effort into a single night. Musicians have reported dreaming entire compositions. Inventors have dreamed of solutions to complex problems, and writers have dreamed storylines that would otherwise take months to piece together. Dreams accelerate the process of idea generation, as though condensing time for creativity. In waking life, progress often feels slow and incremental, but in dreams, the mind can leap ahead, skipping the intermediate steps. This can feel like borrowing from the future, accessing ideas before they would normally arrive. The way dreams bend time also has emotional consequences. Sometimes a single dream can allow you to spend what feels like days with a loved one who has passed away. The emotional intensity of those moments can feel timeless, offering comfort even if the experience lasted only minutes. This reveals another dimension of dream time. It is not measured only in events, but in emotional weight. A brief dream can feel eternal if it carries profound meaning, showing us that time in dreams is not only elastic, but also deeply tied to the heart. Interestingly, the distortions of time in dreams have parallels in certain altered states of consciousness. People who meditate deeply, use psychedelics, or undergo near-death experiences often describe similar shifts in time perception. They report time slowing down, stopping, or expanding into a sense of eternity. These parallels suggest that the way dreams manipulate time is not unique to sleep, but part of a broader feature of consciousness itself. Perhaps our ordinary experience of linear time is only one mode of awareness, and dreams give us a chance to explore others. If we take this idea seriously, dreams might serve as a training ground for perceiving time differently. By experiencing how time can stretch, shrink, and rearrange, we learn that our waking perception of time is not absolute. This can change how we view our daily lives. Instead of feeling trapped in the relentless march of minutes and hours, we may begin to see time as more flexible, something shaped by attention, memory, and meaning. Dreams show us that the laws of the clock are not the only way to measure existence. There is a poetic beauty in this realization. Time in dreams is not something that happens to us. It is something we create. We weave it through our experiences, stretch it through our emotions, and compress it through our imagination. The dream world reveals time as a canvas on which the mind paints, rather than a cage that confines us. This reframing doesn't just apply to sleep. It offers a new way of thinking about life itself. If time is flexible in dreams, perhaps our waking lives also offer more freedom than we realize, shaped not just by external schedules, but by how we choose to engage with the world. Dreams, then, are more than just random stories at night. They are laboratories of time, where the mind experiments with different ways of experiencing reality. They remind us that our relationship to time is not fixed, but fluid, capable of expansion, contraction, and transformation. Whether or not this counts as literal time travel, it is certainly a kind of temporal exploration. An exploration that takes us beyond the ticking clock into the boundless possibilities of consciousness. Dreams are not only personal, they can also serve as windows into collective memory, culture, and even ancient human experience. In this sense, they may be one of the closest things we have to travelling through the shared time of humanity. For thousands of years, people have recorded their dreams. Ancient Mesopotamian tablets, Egyptian papyri, Greek philosophical texts, and medieval diaries all contain dream accounts. When we read these records today, we find that many of the themes are strikingly familiar. Dreams of flight, of being pursued, of revisiting childhood homes, of seeing loved ones who have died. These appear again and again across cultures and centuries. This continuity suggests that the dream world has its own kind of timelessness. When you dream, you are not only entering your own mind, but also stepping into a human experience that has spanned millennia. This gives dreams the power to link us across historical time. Imagine having a dream tonight of standing in a temple, watching a procession of figures in elaborate robes. While you may interpret this dream in the context of your own life, it may also echo the experiences of people who lived thousands of years ago. Ancient Egyptians, for example, often reported temple dreams and believed them to be messages from the gods. Without knowing it, your modern dream has placed you in resonance with their ancient world. In this way, dreams become a bridge across eras, connecting individuals through the universal language of imagery and story. The historian of religion Mircea Eliade argued that myths and rituals function as a return to sacred time, a kind of eternal present where the past is not lost but accessible. Dreams may perform a similar role. They can carry us out of the linear timeline of history and into a realm where all stories coexist. When you dream, you may not just be revisiting your personal past, you may be tapping into the mythic past of humanity. This is one reason so many cultures have treated dreams as sacred, as doors to another order of reality beyond the ordinary march of years. There is also the question of ancestral memory. Some psychologists and philosophers have speculated that dreams may contain fragments of experiences passed down through generations, encoded not in individual memory, but in the deeper patterns of the psyche. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious reflects this idea. Archetypal images, such as the wise old man, the nurturing mother, or the trickster, appear in dreams across cultures, as though inherited from a shared human story. If this is true, then to dream is to travel not just within your own lifetime, but through the collective history of the species. You are momentarily inhabiting symbols and stories that have existed for countless generations. Consider the dream of flying. Today, you might interpret it as a metaphor for freedom or ambition. But thousands of years ago, people dreamed the same thing and interpreted it as communication with the divine or as a shamanic journey. The symbol has persisted across time, but its meaning has shifted with culture. When you dream of flight, you are both expressing your personal desires and echoing an image that has resonated throughout human history. In this sense, the dream makes you a participant in an ongoing human dialogue that transcends centuries. Dreams also allow us to revisit history in a more literal sense. Many people report dreaming of historical figures or events they have read about. You might dream of walking through a medieval castle, standing in an ancient battlefield, or conversing with someone from another era. Sometimes these dreams are clearly influenced by what you've studied or imagined. Other times they feel inexplicably vivid, as though you are genuinely there. Whether these are reconstructions based on memory or something more mysterious, they give you the sensation of traveling back through time into worlds you never physically knew. It is striking how often artists and writers throughout history have used dreams as inspiration for exploring the past. For instance, the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge claimed that his dream led him to compose Kubla Khan, a vision of a distant, exotic palace. Writers of historical novels sometimes report dreaming of scenes so detailed they feel like direct experiences of bygone times. Painters, too, have drawn on dream imagery to capture ancient landscapes or mythic stories. These examples suggest that dreams can act as portals through which cultural memory flows, enabling individuals to access layers of time beyond their own lifespans. Dreams of ancestors are another common thread. Across cultures, people have described dreams of being visited by deceased family members or distant forebears. These encounters often feel profoundly real, as though the barrier between generations has been momentarily lifted. In many traditions, such dreams are interpreted as genuine communications, a way for the dead to offer guidance or protection. Whether or not one accepts this literally, the symbolic meaning is clear. Dreams create a space where lineage and history remain alive, where the past walks again in the present. This experience of ancestral presence in dreams can have a powerful psychological effect. It reminds us that we are not isolated individuals moving through time, but part of a larger continuum stretching backward into the past. It deepens our sense of identity by linking us to those who came before. Even if the ancestors we meet in dreams are imagined, they carry the weight of memory, culture, and heritage. They embody the continuity of time, reminding us that our lives are woven into a much larger story. Interestingly, this sense of historical connection through dreams can also extend into the future. Just as dreams may bring us face to face with ancestors, they can also place us in imagined conversations with descendants who have not yet been born. Some people dream of future children or grandchildren, experiencing relationships that do not yet exist. These dreams collapse the divide between past and future, placing us within a continuum of time that stretches in both directions. They remind us that identity is not just about the self, but about the larger human chain of which we are a part. Philosophically, this challenges our ordinary sense of time as a series of isolated moments. Dreams suggest instead that time is layered, with the past, present, and future intertwined. When you dream of an ancestor or a descendant, you are momentarily stepping outside of your fixed position in history, inhabiting the broader flow of generations. In this way, dreams offer not just personal time travel, but cultural and historical time travel, connecting you to the entire human story. The anthropologist Clifford Geertz once described culture as webs of significance that humans spin and in which we are suspended. Dreams, too, are part of this web. They weave together personal memories, cultural symbols, ancestral echoes, and imagined futures into one seamless experience. When you dream, you are not just wandering through your own life, you are navigating a vast tapestry that stretches across centuries. Each dream is a thread in this tapestry, tying you to countless others who have dreamed before and will dream after. There is a profound humility in this realization. Dreams remind us that we are temporary travelers in the larger timeline of humanity, yet also that we are participants in something enduring. Our private nighttime visions link us to ancient traditions, shared archetypes, and collective experiences. To dream is to join an ongoing human story that transcends the limits of our individual lifetimes. In this way, dreams are indeed a form of time travel, not just through our own past and future, but through the history of our species itself. Memory itself is deeply tied to our experience of time, since it allows us to carry the past into the present and imagine possible futures. Without memory, there would be no sense of continuity, no thread connecting who we were yesterday to who we are today. Dreams, however, reveal that memory is not a static archive. It is dynamic, fluid, and capable of reshaping time in surprising ways. One of the most striking things about dreams is how they blend memories together. You might dream of being in your childhood home, but the furniture is from your current apartment, and the people around you are a mix of old friends and strangers. The brain pulls fragments from different times and recombines them into a new scene. This isn't just random mixing. Neuroscientists studying memory consolidation suggest that during sleep, the brain replays and reorganizes memories, strengthening some while discarding others. What feels like a surreal dream may actually be the brain stitching together pieces of your past to integrate them into a more coherent whole. This process means that dreams don't just replay the past, they reshape it. A memory of your school years may resurface in a dream, but altered in detail or emotion. Perhaps a humiliating experience becomes comic, or a joyful moment turns bittersweet. These changes show that memory is not fixed. Every time we recall an event, we reconstruct it, and dreams amplify this reconstructive process by allowing emotions, symbols, and associations to reshape the memory. In this sense, dreams are not only time machines, but also time editors, revising our past in ways that affect how we carry it into the future. The editing of memory in dreams can have real psychological effects. People often wake from dreams with new perspectives on old experiences. A difficult event from years ago may feel resolved after it is replayed symbolically in a dream. A joyful memory may return with renewed vividness, reminding you of values or relationships you had forgotten. By reworking memories, dreams can soften trauma, reinforce identity, or highlight lessons. They allow the mind to revisit the past not as a fixed record, but as a living narrative, open to reinterpretation. This fluidity of memory in dreams can also create entirely new experiences that feel just as real as waking ones. For instance, you might dream of having a conversation with someone you never actually spoke to in life, yet the memory of that dream conversation can be as emotionally powerful as a real one. In this way, dreams expand your lived experience, adding imagined events to your personal timeline. These false memories may not correspond to actual history, but they become part of your internal history, shaping your feelings and decisions in the same way real events do. Consider how this might blur the line between dream and reality. If your brain can generate memories that feel authentic, then the distinction between past and imagined past becomes less clear. From the perspective of consciousness, both kinds of memory can influence identity and decision-making. This suggests that the subjective timeline we live by is not purely objective, but woven from both real and imagined strands. Dreams demonstrate just how porous this boundary is, reminding us that the past we carry is always partly constructed. Dreams also affect how we anticipate the future, which is itself a kind of memory projected forward. Psychologists call this prospective memory, the ability to remember to do things in the future, like attending an appointment or completing a task. Dreams often simulate such scenarios, rehearsing what might happen. You may dream of giving a presentation, traveling to a destination, or navigating a challenge before it actually occurs. These simulations allow you to prepare emotionally and cognitively, as though the brain were practicing for the future. By imagining possibilities in dream form, you are in effect pre-living events, creating memories of futures that haven't yet occurred. This rehearsal function ties back to evolutionary theories of dreaming. Some researchers suggest that dreams evolved as a form of threat simulation, allowing early humans to practice responses to danger in a safe environment. In this view, dreams provided an adaptive advantage by letting us rehearse fight or flight responses before encountering real threats. Over time, this function may have expanded to include rehearsals for all kinds of situations, social, creative, or problem-solving. If true, dreams are not only about processing the past, but also about preparing for the future, giving us a form of forward time travel that enhances survival. Memory in dreams is not limited to personal experience. Sometimes we dream of places we've never been in, or people we've never met. These may be composites drawn from fragments of memory, faces glimpsed in crowds, landscapes pieced together from films and books. Yet occasionally they feel startlingly real, as if we are accessing memories beyond our own. While science typically explains this as the brain's remarkable ability to synthesize fragments into coherent wholes, it raises the intriguing possibility that memory in dreams can extend beyond individual experience, touching something collective or transpersonal. There are also cases where dreams seem to recall forgotten memories. People sometimes dream of an event from early childhood or of a detail they hadn't consciously remembered. Upon waking, they find the memory to be accurate, confirmed by others or by evidence. This suggests that dreams can access deep layers of memory, retrieving experiences that are otherwise inaccessible. In such moments, dreams act as archaeological digs into our personal timeline, unearthing buried fragments of the past. The relationship between memory and dreams also intersects with modern neuroscience. Studies show that during sleep, particularly REM sleep, the brain consolidates new memories. It takes the day's experiences, sorts them, and integrates them into long-term storage. Dreams appear to be a byproduct of this process, weaving together new and old information into narrative form. This means that dreams may play a direct role in shaping the timeline of our lives by deciding which experiences are kept, which are altered, and which are forgotten. Without dreams, our memory of time itself might fragment, leaving us without the continuity that defines identity. On a more philosophical level, dreams challenge the idea of memory as a passive record. They show that memory is active, interpretive, and creative. When you dream, you are not simply replaying your past, you are rewriting it. combining it with the present, and projecting it into the future. This creative process is what allows us to live not in a fixed timeline, but in a flexible one, where meaning is constantly reshaped. Dreams are the mind's way of reminding us that time is not just measured in minutes, but in stories. Perhaps this is why dreams can feel more real than waking life at times. They don't just show us what happened, they show us what it meant, what it could have meant, or what it might mean someday. They give us alternate versions of our history, futures that are yet to come, and experiences that exist only in imagination. In doing so, they expand the boundaries of our timeline, turning memory into a multidimensional landscape rather than a straight line. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle once remarked that time is the measure of change. If that is true, then dreams reveal that change is not only physical, but also psychological. In dreams, we change the past by reinterpreting it, change the future by rehearsing it, and change ourselves by weaving it all into our sense of identity. Memory, in this sense, is not a static record, but an engine of transformation, and dreams are the workshop in which it operates. In waking life, time feels linear. Seconds follow seconds, days follow days, and we move in one direction from past to future. Yet in dreams, this sense of order is disrupted. Events can unfold at astonishing speed or stretch into what feels like hours, even though only minutes have passed. Entire narratives can take place in the span of a few seconds of real-world time. This discrepancy reveals that our subjective sense of time is not anchored to the clock, but is instead a construction of the mind. Take, for example, the common experience of waking from a long, elaborate dream that seems to have lasted all night, only to find that only a few minutes have passed since you last looked at the clock. The brain, in its dreaming state, does not measure time the way the waking mind does. Instead, it creates time internally, expanding or compressing it as needed to suit the unfolding narrative. This suggests that our sense of time is far more flexible than we usually realize. In fact, researchers have tried to study this directly. Experiments with lucid dreamers, people who are aware they are dreaming while still in the dream, show that they can signal researchers from inside their dreams by moving their eyes in predetermined patterns. When asked to count seconds in a dream, lucid dreamers often show close but not perfect synchronization with real time. Some tasks take longer in the dream than in waking reality, as though time itself is dilated. This indicates that dream time and waking time are not identical, but are parallel constructions, overlapping yet distinct. The elasticity of time in dreams also allows for impossible sequences. You may dream of living through an entire day, or even years, compressed into a short period of real-world sleep. Some dreams contain flashbacks, leaps forward, or events unfolding out of order, similar to how films can manipulate time with cuts and transitions. In this sense, dreams act like personal movies directed by your brain, unconstrained by the arrow of time. They remind us that the experience of time is not fixed, but can be bent, shaped, and remade. This raises an intriguing philosophical question. If our perception of time is this flexible in dreams, could waking time also be less rigid than we think? Physics already suggests that time is relative, not absolute. Einstein showed that time moves differently depending on speed and gravity. Astronauts traveling at high velocity experience time more slowly than people on Earth. Gravity bends time, slowing clocks near massive objects. In everyday life, we don't notice these effects, but in the cosmos, they are measurable and real. Dreams mirror this relativity on a psychological level. They show us that subjective time is just as malleable as physical time is under relativity. This parallel is striking. Just as physics dismantled the idea of a universal clock, dreams dismantled the idea of a universal inner clock. Each mind creates its own timeline, sometimes expanding it, sometimes compressing it, depending on the state of consciousness. The lesson here is profound. Time is not simply something out there that we move through, but also something generated in here, within our awareness. Dreams make this visible in ways that waking life rarely does. Another remarkable feature of dream time is its ability to loop and reset. You may find yourself in a recurring dream scenario, experiencing the same events again and again, sometimes with slight variations. This repetition is unlike waking life, where time seems irreversible. In dreams, however, the arrow of time can bend back on itself, allowing you to relive and reshape events. This looping quality can feel uncanny, even unsettling, as though you are caught in a cycle. Yet it also reveals that the mind is capable of constructing time as a circular experience rather than a linear one. Recurring dreams highlight another fascinating dimension: symbolic time. The events may not be literal repetitions of past experiences, but symbolic reenactments. For example, a recurring dream about being late may represent ongoing anxieties about responsibility, rather than a specific incident. The repetition in dreams functions less like a replay of the past and more like a thematic exploration, revisiting the same emotional landscape until it is resolved. In this way, dream time is not chronological, but thematic, organized around meaning rather than sequence. The symbolic use of time in dreams also explains why people sometimes dream of being at multiple ages simultaneously. You may find yourself both as a child and as an adult in the same scene, or shifting rapidly between ages. Time in dreams can fold back on itself, allowing different versions of the self to coexist. This kind of temporal layering points to the possibility that our sense of self across time is more flexible than we think. In waking life, we imagine ourselves as a single thread moving from birth to death. In dreams, we glimpse the possibility of being multiple selves across time all at once. This fluidity of identity across dream time resonates with some spiritual traditions. In Hindu philosophy, time is seen as cyclical rather than linear, and the self is thought to exist beyond the limitations of a single lifetime. Dreams, by presenting us with overlapping timelines and identities, can evoke this sense of timelessness, as though the boundaries of past, present, and future dissolve. From a psychological standpoint, these experiences remind us that our identity is constructed not only by memory, but also by imagination. Dreams allow us to experiment with selves that are not bound to linear chronology. There is also the phenomenon of precognitive dreams, dreams that seem to anticipate future events. While science generally interprets these as coincidences or the brain's ability to anticipate outcomes based on existing information, the subjective experience of them can be powerful. People have reported dreaming of events that later occurred in striking detail, such as conversations, accidents, or encounters. Whether these are genuine glimpses of the future or products of pattern recognition, they reveal the mind's ability to project timelines forward in ways that feel uncanny. In this sense, dreams can create the impression of bending time forward, as though the future were already accessible. Even if precognitive dreams are not supernatural, they highlight an important truth. The brain is constantly predicting the future. Neuroscience shows that perception itself is predictive. The brain doesn't just receive information, but actively anticipates what will happen next. Dreams may extend this predictive function, weaving possible futures into narrative form. When one of these imagined futures happens to align with reality, it feels prophetic. Dreams, then, are laboratories of possibility, generating countless versions of the future, only some of which unfold in waking life. Time in dreams also connects deeply with emotion. Have you ever noticed that emotionally intense dreams seem to last longer? Fear, joy, or sadness can expand the sense of duration, making moments feel eternal. In contrast, mundane or uneventful dreams often pass quickly, fading into forgetfulness. This mirrors waking life, where emotional events are remembered more vividly and seem to occupy more space in memory. Emotion acts as a kind of clock, stretching or compressing subjective time depending on intensity. Dreams make this link between time and emotion more obvious, as though to remind us that time is not just measured by minutes, but by meaning. Philosophers have long wrestled with the nature of time, asking whether it is real or an illusion. The British philosopher J.M.E. MacTaggart argued that time, as we normally understand it, is unreal, a construct of the mind. He distinguished between two models: the A series, where events are ordered as past, present, and future, and the B series, where they are simply ordered earlier or later. Dreams often dissolve the A series, jumbling past and future together, leaving only sequences without fixed direction. This makes them feel timeless, suspended outside ordinary chronology. They provide direct experiential support for the idea that time, at least as we experience it, is a mental construction. From a scientific perspective, this also raises questions about consciousness itself. If time is not fixed but elastic, what does this mean for the continuity of self? Is the self something that persists across time, or is it reconstructed moment by moment, just like memory? Dreams suggest the latter, showing us selves that shift fluidly, identities that flicker in and out, and timelines that branch and recombine. The stability of identity may be less a fact and more an illusion maintained by waking consciousness. This insight can be unsettling but also liberating. If the self is not bound to a rigid timeline, then perhaps we are freer than we imagine. Dreams invite us to step outside the linear march of hours and years, to explore alternate sequences, overlapping identities, and non-linear narratives. They reveal that time is not a prison, but a canvas, and consciousness is the artist painting across it. As we arrive at the final stage of this journey, it's worth reflecting on what we've uncovered. From the beginning, we explored the possibility that dreams might be more than random firings of neurons. Instead, they appear as rich laboratories where memory, imagination, and identity interact. They allow us to revisit the past, rehearse the future, and bend the rules of time itself. In dreams, hours can stretch into seconds, and lifetimes can unfold in the blink of an eye. The mind shows us that time is not always linear, but elastic, symbolic, and deeply tied to emotion and meaning. One of the most remarkable things about dreams is their ability to create continuity across the otherwise fragmented experience of consciousness. Each night, when the waking self dissolves, dreams offer a thread that ties our lives together, revisiting memories, reshaping them, and creating futures not yet lived. In this way, they preserve the sense of an ongoing story, even as they remind us that the story is not fixed. Dreams reveal that time is not simply something we move through, but something we create, stitch by stitch, moment by moment. They also blur the boundaries between self and time. In waking life, we imagine ourselves as a single person moving along a linear path, but in dreams, we can be multiple versions of ourselves: child and adult, past and future, observer and participant, all at once. This fracturing of identity shows us that the self is not rigid but fluid, capable of existing in many times simultaneously. Perhaps this is why dreams can feel both deeply personal and strangely universal, as though they touch something beyond the individual timeline. Throughout history, cultures have recognized this connection between dreams and time. Ancient peoples saw dreams as portals to ancestors, visions of destiny, or glimpses of eternity. Philosophers debated whether time was real or an illusion, and dreams provided lived experiences of time's strangeness. Modern science, too, now acknowledges the relativity of time, both physically and psychologically. Dreams bring these abstract ideas into vivid experience, showing us what it feels like to step outside ordinary chronology. When we think about dreams as the closest thing to time travel, we realize that they are not just curiosities of the mind, but profound experiences that reshape how we understand reality itself. They teach us that time is not a rigid container, but a flexible medium, one that consciousness can mold in countless ways. By dreaming, we practice time travel every night, not by moving our bodies through space, but by shifting the stage of awareness through memory, imagination, and identity. And now, as we close, let's return to where we began, at the edge of sleep, where waking consciousness fades and dreaming begins. This nightly journey is not just rest, but a reminder of the mysteries within us. When we dream, we move through time in ways we cannot while awake. We step into past and future. We loop and stretch. We become many selves. And when we wake, we carry fragments of those journeys with us, reminders that time is more than clocks and calendars. It is a story we are constantly rewriting. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, remember that you are not just closing your eyes. You are stepping into another dimension of time, one that is yours to explore. You may wander through memories, visit futures yet to come, or find yourself in worlds that bend time's rules entirely. Each dream is a voyage, and each night is an invitation to discover what time really means when freed from waking life's constraints.